All right, friends, this is day 3 of our online Bible study looking at Luke, and today we are reading all of chapter 2. Now, we together are not going to read all of chapter 2, but I'm going to encourage you, if you've never read it before, to just read it slowly. You're going to see some stuff that's some of the most famous stuff in Luke. And if you have read it before, look for the things that maybe you've never noticed before. Again, read it slow. I want to point out just a couple of things. Okay, first is this. Let's remember who we were dealing with in chapter 1. We're dealing with just an everyday, ordinary couple in Zechariah and Elizabeth. People who, if they weren't associated with this, we'd never know their name. They're just people that are anonymous in their day and age. And then we get into chapter 2, and all of a sudden, who are we dealing with? In those days, a decree went out from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration when Quirinius was governor of Syria. Now, who are we dealing with? We're dealing with the most powerful man in the known world and the most powerful man in the region that this was written in. So we're dealing with not only just kind of ordinary, everyday folks. What's happening, what God is doing is affecting them. And it's also unbeknownst to them, affecting the most powerful people in the world. We then skip down a little bit, and who are we dealing with? Well, we're dealing with shepherds. Don't romanticize this. The shepherds were the lowliest of the lowly. Poor, ostracized, sitting on the fringes of society. So this is affecting the most powerful folks and the lowliest folks. It's affecting ordinary people like Zechariah and Elizabeth, the elites, and the ostracized. It's affecting everybody. Then we keep going, and Jesus is eventually presented at the temple. And who do his parents run into? But they run into a man named Simeon, who blesses them and who sings a song over them. And then after they've had this interaction with Simeon, what do? But they meet a prophetess, a woman named Anna, who does something very similar for their family to what Simeon does. So they're interacting with, and the birth of Jesus is affecting both the men in the community and the women. This is pointing towards what Jesus' whole life will be about. Jesus interacts with the old and the young. He interacts with the rich and the poor. He interacts with folks who are religious and folks who are non-religious. He interacts with folks that we would call good and folks that we would call bad. He interacts with folks who love him and folks who hate him. And we see from the very, very beginning what will become strikingly obvious throughout the rest of Luke. And that is that what is happening through Jesus is for everybody. Now, it doesn't mean that he leaves people where they are. He's very challenging to people. And the expectation is to be a follower of Jesus. Things change about your life. But he expects things to change not before the relationship starts, but he expects things to change as the relationship with him progresses. Who is the movement of Jesus for? It's for all of these folks. It's for me and it's for you. For some of us, what we really struggle with is thinking, gosh, it's not for that person that I'm thinking about, the person I can't imagine Jesus having a meal with. Some of us struggle saying, I can't imagine Jesus having a meal with me. Come on. At the very beginning, Jesus is for all of these people. And again, gotta keep in mind, we will see this over and over again. There's then life change that happens. But right here, he's for everybody. And the last thing I want to point out is just notice this. So the angels appear to the shepherds. The shepherds then, after the angels appear and talk to them, they're then left in the darkness again. I mean, it's not like the skies stay lit up. The words stop, go back into the darkness, it's quiet again. The angels then have to decide what to do. So what did they do? When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has made known to us. So they hear this, and they go and they look. It's like Moses, he sees the burning bush, and he steps aside, and he goes and takes a closer look. It's what we'll see Peter do later at the end of this story, where he hears that the tomb is empty. And then he runs there to see. What happens is that they hear something, and then they go. And when they go, what do they find? They find Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in a manger. I think this is the call for us right here at the beginning, before we even see the adult Jesus. The call to us is that we have heard something. There's something to this Jesus thing. Now we step aside and go. For us, that might look like taking 10 or 15 minutes a day to read this, to reflect on it, to watch these videos. That might be what it looks like for us to turn aside and go. When we hear that God is up to something, do we turn aside and go? They could have stayed in the field, but because they didn't stay in the field, they saw Jesus face to face. Because we don't stay in our ordinary lives. When we hear something, we step aside. Maybe through this Bible study, we too will see God face to face. God bless you, friends. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.